report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. You got Craig and TK and Heather D. Tune in at the fish report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Tune in to the fish report.
And welcome, everyone, to another Fish Report Live. Thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Fissinger. That is Ken Francis. We're your host. And back in our sound room, of course, it's TK and Heavy D. We'll be checking in with those guys a little bit later in this show. And back again this week are Covey and Kearns. Excited to hear what they have to say. And Ken, it's an action-packed night on a special Tuesday night episode of FRL.
You're right there, Craig. Like you said, special edition Tuesday night, Craig. And I've been giving this team a lot of love all year. I've been on Covey and Kearns. You know, what about the Sidney Yellow Jackets? Well, tonight we're going to give them a whole bunch of recognition. We got a big-time interview, guys, with probably the hottest high school football player in the state of Ohio, and that's Isaiah Bowser from the Sidney Yellow Jackets, Craig. Really looking forward to talking to Isaiah. He's off to a phenomenal start through 4 games, Craig. He's got over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. He leads the G-Walk in almost every offensive category. And just for a little bit of fun last week, Craig, he decided to throw for 90 yards as well, including a touchdown pass. So really looking forward to talking to the star of the Sidney Yellow Jackets tonight.
Yeah, I was watching Fox 45's James Ryder talking about Isaiah Bowser, and he was talking about how he was putting up video game-like numbers, you know, like you said, 6 touchdowns, 400 yards last week. I think in the third quarter he had 177 yards in the third quarter alone, so just crazy numbers and a lot of fun to watch. And from what I hear, a very good actually I was talking to Dave Ross, a Sidney historian, football historian over there. He said he's as good a guy on the field as he is off the field. And we know that well. Sidney has a lot of first-class guys over there. Talked to Coach Dunn just last year about this time, and Andre Gordon during the basketball season. A lot of good guys over there.
Yes, they do, Craig, and very smart kid. Isaiah, of course, going to Northwestern in the Big Ten, you know, and they don't just recruit anybody over there at Northwestern, as you know, very intelligent young man. So really looking forward to that interview here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun, that's for sure. And speaking of Sidney football, they are the subject of tonight's poll question.
Yes, Craig, poll question for our listeners out there tonight. How many regular season wins will the Sidney Yellow Jackets have in football? Well, they're already up 4-0, Craig. Will it be 7, 8, 9, or 10? So, again, how many regular season wins will the Sidney Yellow Jackets have in football? A lot of our viewers out there, let's see you guys jump on that and see what our listeners have to say tonight, Craig, on that poll question.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the history of Sidney football here recently, and there's a website out there right now that makes predictions on playoff predictions. They're actually saying that Sidney has a 97% chance of making the playoffs based on who they've got left to play, and they're actually favored in the rest of their games, according to this website. So,
well, they've got a long way to go. The G-Walk's a tough conference, of course, and you know they'll try to go for 5-0 this Friday night, Craig, and you know they play them one game at a time. And Coach Dungus, I'm sure, is you know, he may be running Bowser left, Bowser right, and Bowser up the middle for all I know.
Well, speaking of tonight's poll question, if you're watching us right now on the Fish Report Live page on your computers, you can scroll down, help us answer the poll question, check the results. If you're watching us on NK Telco, TK is going to have those results for you at the end of the show. All right, Ken, let's get things started, you know, and it's not exactly baseball season right now. We're talking fall sports right now, but some big news in baseball out of Fort Laramie last night.
Yes, Shelby County League, a traditional strong baseball school, the Fort Laramie Redskins. Last night, the Board of Education announced that they had hired 1989 Fort Laramie graduate Jeff Sanders to be the new head baseball coach of the Fort Laramie Redskins. He takes over a team there, Craig, loaded with a lot of talent. Jeff, like I said, 89 graduate of Fort Laramie, played for the University of Dayton Flyers, went on and played some independent baseball, and, From what I hear, going to be a great role model for the kids, a great hire for the Redskins, and like I said, they got a lot of talent, but we'll see what they can do. There's a lot of strong teams in this area, with Russia and Minster, of course. I'm sure Coach Sanders is already looking at how am I going to beat Russia and Minster, and as well as some of the other powerhouse schools in baseball.
And, of course, he was an assistant under their former coach, Bill Sturwald, and so he knows a lot about the team already. He was actually a former SCL Player of the Year back in 1989. I know myself and Heavy D, I got to see him play for a lot of years, being the same age as Jeff. So, yeah, he's going to make a good coach. He'll be a good fit over there for the Redskins, a hometown guy. So we'll be excited to see how he does, and I'm sure we'll be talking to him in the spring.
Well, he's got some big shoes to fill over there, filling in for Hall of Fame Coach Bill Sturwald, and so we'll see how he can do with the program.
Yeah, Ken, I kind of made a mistake last week. I was talking about cross country. You were giving us predictions on the best girls teams in the Southwest region. I was handling the boys. And I said that I said Fort Laramie was number 1, Howson was number 2, and I put the Versailles Tigers at number 3. Only there was a problem with that.
There is.
They're not Division 3. They're actually Division 2. And I was told that after the show. Someone sent me a tweet and said, "Hey, Craig, I think you messed up on that one." And they're right. I had Versailles at Division 3. Now their girls are Division 3. The boys happen to be Division 2. They're one of those schools that's right there on the bubble with numbers. And so actually Versailles is Division 2. And how I got that, I use a website, a very good website in that, but it's called Ohio Mile Split. Very good with story, stats, all that kind of stuff. You can do virtual meets on there. But for whatever reason, they have Versailles in there as Division 3. And I didn't do my homework on that one. I ran a virtual meet, and they had Versailles as the third best team in Division 3. And like we said, they're not Division 3, they're Division 2. So I'm still going to stick with Fort Laramie and House as my number 1, 2. But I mentioned a couple other schools from the Cincinnati area, Clark Montessori and Summit Country Day as possible top teams in that region. I'm going to go with them at 3, 4. But Versailles, we'll look for them in Division 2.
Maybe we can get the girls team to drop down to Division 2 too. How's that sound?
That would be good for me. That's for sure.
We would take that.
All right, well, listen, there's a lot of other sports to talk about, and we got golf, we got volleyball, and for that, we're going to go out to Studio R and check in with Covey and Kearns, and let's get out there to the guys. And guys, last week we had Anna Senior Eli Cuck on our show, did an interview with him right before the SCAL tournament, and I don't know if we were good luck or not, but he did very well on Thursday in that tournament, didn't he?
Yeah, Eli shot a 76 out at his home course of Shelby Oaks on Thursday, Daniel. Had a really solid round. Finished one stroke behind eventual player of the year, Nick Fischio. Led his Anna Rockets to shoot a 338 that day, and they ended up winning or being first that day, but they fell one league win short of defeating Laramie, who ended up being county champions. And Anna came back with a solid round at Jordan Muller Saturday. They placed 4th out of 19 teams. So I guess we gave Eli some pretty good luck, Craig.
Yeah, well, it's always good luck. It's kind of like being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, only it's the opposite. They talk about the Sports Illustrated jinx, Covey, but here you got the Fish Report good luck. So, it worked for Eli Cuck.
Yes. So to begin our segment, Daniel, I hear that you went to the Fort Recovery Versailles volleyball game tonight. What updates do you have on that?
Well, first off, Versailles 1-4. Fort Recovery took the first game. It was pretty close, but they came out. I think it was 25-23. Fort Recovery came in. They looked pretty good. They looked ready to play. And Versailles, they just looked a little slow to begin with. But once Versailles got going in the second game, they really took the momentum, and they used it all the way through the last 3 games. It was back and forth the whole time. Fort Recovery kept with them the whole time. I mean, there were a lot of lead changes between both teams, but Versailles just stayed with it, stayed attacking the whole time, and they came out on top the next 3 and won it.
Yeah, Fort Recovery, a team very solid. They defeated the Russia Raiders in 3 sets last night, and they also defeated the New Bremen Cardinals in 4 sets. So the MAC very balanced right now. 8 out of their 10 teams are state ranked. And Fort Recovery's also got a big game this Thursday with the Marion Local Flyers. Daniel, you were saying a couple key players were Madison Russell and Carly Stone. So how do you think they'll impact the Fort Recovery Indians game plan on Thursday?
Well, Madison Russell, she's a junior. She's their setter, and she looks really good out there. She looks like she's been out there for a while. She's a good leader for that team. She's letting her passers know where she's at all the time. The passers get it to her, and she sets up her hitters real well. They don't have really that many dominant hitters. They got Carly Stone, who's pretty good. She's a senior. She hits the ball pretty well, but overall they just got no hitter that stands out other than Carly Stone, which she's just above average, but other than that, they're all pretty same.
Yeah, my prediction for that game, Daniel, I'm gonna take the Indians in 4 sets. I think they had a little bit of a setback tonight, but I think they're gonna pick back up right where they left off against Rushi, and I'm gonna take them in 4.
Absolutely, I agree with that. They'll win in 4 against Marion. They look like they were on Versailles the whole entire game. I feel like if 1 point would have went the other way, I feel like Fort Recovery could have taken the game or maybe another one and won it all against Versailles. So I say Indians in 4.
And another key MAC volleyball matchup Thursday, we have the old rivalry between the Coldwater Cavaliers and the St. Henry Redskins taking on place in the Palace in Coldwater. Coldwater's undefeated right now, ranked first in the state. St. Henry's coming off of 13 straight wins after their first loss of the season was the first game at the Coldwater Spike-Off. So Coldwater ranked number 1 in Division 3, and St. Henry's ranked number 3 in Division 4. And I know that this has been a rivalry for the past couple years for what I've known. And St. Henry's got some very talented players. They have Julia Holdheide and Brittany Seifring. They also have Claudia Heitkamp, who's coming off an ACL injury. And I know Coldwater's led by Elena Knapke, and they're getting them playing really solid right now. Right now, I'm going to take the Cavaliers. I just think they're a little overpowering from what I've read and stuff. So I'm going to take them at 4 at home in the Palace Thursday night.
Absolutely, I agree. Coldwater, they got 6 seniors, 4 of them of which have been playing since freshman year. So they got a lot of talent out there that have been out there playing together for the past 3 or 4 years together. They got a couple of sophomores that have been playing since their freshman year. So they got a lot of talent, a lot of good players, and I know they got big hitters. They got a good back row, and they got a good setter. So with all of that, I got them at home against St. Henry winning in 3.
And, yeah, Daniel, I mentioned there's no easy night in the MAC. 8 out of the 10 teams are ranked in the state polls, so you always have to bring your A game.
Absolutely. Coldwater, they're ranked number 1 in the state right now, so against that team, you got to bring your A game to win.
And switching gears from the MAC to the SCAL, tonight was a big matchup between Fort Laramie and Anna. Fort Laramie coming into tonight had 1 league loss, and they suffered their second loss tonight to the Anna Rockets after Fort Laramie had a nice week with wins over Marion, Local, and Rushi. Anna, getting Carly Becker back from injury was huge. Anna's been playing really solid as of late, and they took a 4-set win tonight. And, Daniel, I think the Raiders are going to be waking up in first place again tomorrow. So we'll see with their big game on Thursday against Jackson how they respond.
Yeah, absolutely. I went and watched the Raiders play Laramie at Laramie last week, and they didn't look that great. I thought they were going to give them a game in Laramie. I thought they were going to win in 5, but that wasn't the case. Laramie came in. They were confident. They were pumped up. They were ready to go. They might have saw that tweet, seeing us wake up first in the NSCAL, and they took that and used that as motivation to beat us, and they put it to us. They beat us in 3. We didn't look like the first team in the SCAL. So this week, Thursday, against Jackson Center, Ruchi's going to have to come out and play well because I know they're not the team that they played earlier in the season, Jackson Center. They beat them in 3, I think, and that's definitely not how it's going to end up this week. Thursday, Coach Watkins got to have them ready to play, ready to go, and focused.
Yeah, the Redskins really impressed me on Thursday. I said last week on the show that I thought their youth would be a little bit of a weakness, but their youth came up and played really good. Marissa Meyering, in particular, had a really good game. Libero Emily Austin played an awesome game. They were hustling, diving all over the floor for balls. And John Rogers, just an experienced coach with the state championship to his credit, had them really calm and relaxed, and they looked like a seasoned team. They played very well, sound, fundamental ball game. And for Thursday night at Rushi, the Raiders will host the defending 2-time state champions Jackson Center. And we know Jackson Center, after losing a lot of talent to their past couple state champion teams, started out 2-4, including a loss to Rushi, but they've been hot as of late, winning 5 straight, including wins over Fort Laramie and Lehman. So what do the Raiders got to do to try to beat the Tigers and vice versa?
We can't take this game lightly. We can't take it as the last game, like, oh, we beat them, we can beat them again. No, it's not the same team that we played last year, and the last time we played them this year. So we definitely got to come in ready to play, keep the momentum, just roll with it, and just keep going.
Yeah, the Tigers are led by Raquel Kessler. I know who's a pretty solid hitter, sister of Alicia Kessler, who played on both the state champion teams. And I'm actually going to take the upset here. I think the Tigers are playing hot as of late. I'm going to take them in 4 on the Raiders' home court in Claire C. Naveau Gym. So I think it's going to be a a tight race till the end for the SCAL volleyball, and I think Jackson's as in good a shape of anyone to win it.
I think Rushi's going to win it in 4. I'll have to go against you, Kobe. I think Rushi, with the experience that we have on our team, I just think that the Raiders kind of got a wake-up call from getting beat by Lormy in 3 like that, and they'll come out and ready to play.
And that's all we have from Studio R. Back to you guys.
Kobe and Kearns, I got one question for you back there. Talking about the MAC again, 8 of the 10 schools are state ranked. That's just unbelievable statistic right there, Kobe. The good thing is for the D4 schools over there is Coldwater, I know for sure is D3 when it comes to the postseason play. Are any of those other MAC schools D3, or is it just Coldwater and the rest of them are going to have to fight against each other just to get out of the district?
Versailles is actually ranked 11th in Division 3, but that Division 4 group is very packed. That sectional is going to be very tight. You have Fort Recovery, you'll have New Bremen, St. Henry, Delphus, St. John's. That sectional will easily be the best sectional in Ohio in any 4 divisions.
We're not even talking about Minster, who I'm sure Minster is decent, and they're one of the teams, one of the 2 that's not even state ranked. Is that correct?
Yeah, Minster actually took Laramie to 5 games, so Minster's a solid team too. No slouchers in the MAC this year for sure.
Well, that's great stuff, guys. Good reporting back there, and appreciate all the good knowledge of high school girls volleyball right there.
And Minster,
Thank you.
Minster actually beat by New Bremen tonight, 3-0 over there. Of course, New Bremen, the number 2 state-ranked team in Division 4 right now. So, great stuff, guys. We're going to take a short break, but stay right there. When we come back, we're going to talk some football, including that big interview with Sidney senior Isaiah Bowser. And welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live. Before the break, a great report from Covey and Kearns on volleyball and a little bit of golf. Cam, we're going to change gears now and talk a little football. And we love our GWalk football here. And Sidney is doing some things right now that they haven't done for over 20 years, and that's getting off to a 4-0 start. And with that, let's take a look at the GWalk standings and see where we're at right now.
Well, Craig, we're going to talk about the North GWalk standings, and you got Sidney sitting atop the standings at 4-0 overall, Greenville at 2-2, Piqua, Tip, Troy, all at 2-2, and Vandalia, Butler at 1-3. Some big crossover games coming up Friday night, Craig. And, again, top of the list there is the Sidney Yellow Jackets. And a big reason for that, Craig, this year is the success of running back Isaiah Bowser.
Yeah, speaking of that guy, we got him live on the phone right now. Isaiah, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, listen, we were rattling off some of your stats a little bit earlier in the show tonight. Congrats on a great start for you and a great start for your Sidney Yellow Jacket team off to 4-0 start. What's the mood like right now in the locker room and around the school there? I'm guessing it's crazy.
Yeah, the mood is thrilling. We have the whole city behind us right now. and we're playing pretty confident. We're just hoping to win some more games.
All right, well, listen, with that 4-0 start, I've been hearing a lot about the history of Sidney right now. You know, you guys, this is your best start since '96. I read where you haven't had a league title over there since maybe back in 1970. Just one playoff appearance for the Yellow Jackets, and that was all the way back in 1989. Is that what's motivating you guys right now, or what's getting you going every Friday night?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely motivating us. We're motivated by the doubt that the city's had previously. I don't think many people believe that we could be a good program lately. And we're also motivated by each other. We all want to be good. And we're motivated by how hard we've worked in the offseason, and we're trying to make a playoff run.
Isaiah, hi, this is Ken. Speaking of history, you said a little history Friday night when you ran wild against Xenia. You rushed for a school record 413 yards. You ended up with 6 touchdowns, and even for the fun of it, you threw for a touchdown pass. What's been behind your success this year? What has changed you as a football player this year versus last year?
I think a lot of it is my confidence. And also I'm running behind a good O-line that's blocking real well right now that can get me to the second level so I can make some plays. And also to my team that's been encouraging me a lot lately.
You know, I had seen an interview with you on Fox News, and they were kind of picking on you about your throwing technique, yet you still threw for 90 yards. I don't think you can pick on you a whole lot about your throwing technique and the wounded ducks, per se, when you throw for 90 yards. Do you have any comments on that for the Fox News guys?
Oh, yeah, I think it's funny they're a little mess with me a little bit. I don't know. I'm glad I got it done in the game, though. I practiced it wasn't looking too good, but in the game I pulled it out.
Isaiah, in addition to offense, of course, you've been one of the biggest stars, not only in the GWAC, but in the entire state of Ohio. But you're listed as a defensive back. You started the season out playing defense against St. Mary's. I think you had 6 tackles. Lately, you haven't either tackled anybody or you're not playing defense, one of the two. So could you elaborate on that a little bit?
I go in for a couple plays on defense a game, like mainly the bigger plays, third and short, 4th down and stuff. I'm definitely going to play defense again this year. I'm just not for sure. It just depends how the game's going and how it's playing out and everything.
Well, I'm sure you could use some rest when you're getting 40 carries a game. You obviously deserve a little time off and a little bit of a breather. In addition to yourself, of course, you're surrounded by some great teammates. You've got Devin Rogers. You've got a big offensive line that you're running behind. You got some good wide receivers, and you've also got a great quarterback who's actually injured right now, and that's Andre Gordon. Andre is one of the more well-known stellar athletes in the state of Ohio for both basketball and football. Can you tell us a little bit about Andre's status, where he stands for this Friday night, and what his injury is all about?
Yeah, Andre, he didn't play last week because he dislocated his shoulder last game, and he was still a little sore from that. But he's back this week, and he's back this week. He's not that sore anymore, and coach is giving him a chance to play this week.
Well, that sounds great. That'll obviously really help your backfield there, give you an additional threat so the defense isn't always focusing on Isaiah Bowser. Let's talk about the game a little bit Friday night. You've got a big crossover GWAC game. You face West Carrollton. They come into the game 1-3, but pretty solid football team. What's it going to take for Sidney to get out of there Friday night with a 5-0 record and stay unblemished for the season?
We just have to play our game. It starts with a good week of practice. We have to get better on both sides of the ball, really. I mean, we've obviously been good scoring lately, but we can definitely score more points. And on defensively, we have to get better as a unit. Can't be letting teams put up a lot of points on us.
Hey, Isaiah, this is Craig again. I want to change gears right now and talk about maybe, I know we're focused on high school, but next year about this time, you're going to be playing over there at Northwestern University where you committed to back in June. I wanted to ask you, I know you're a smart guy. I know you're an honor roll student. I know you had offers from like Yale and Cornell, Navy, Air Force, among many other schools. But you got that offer from Northwestern, and you signed very quickly. What impressed you so much about Northwestern?
Just they have big-time football, Big Ten football. The academics are great, one of the best in the Big Ten. They also have great coaches. I love the running back coach, head coach, Fitz. The city of Chicago is great, and I just thought it was a great fit for me to go there.
Well, yeah, of course you'll be playing in front of those Big Ten crowds. I know you got a game against Notre Dame next year as well. But let's talk about that Sidney crowd a little bit. Before you take your career to the next level, what kind of impression or what do you want to be remembered for as you end your career there at Sidney?
I want to be remembered as one of the best football players, but also one of the best people that have came through our school system, and also as a role model to the little kids growing up. I know some of them look up to me now. I just want to give them a role model to look up to.
Well, listen, hey, that's great stuff, Isaiah. Appreciate you taking time to be on our show tonight. You've had a great career. Good luck the rest of the season. Keep running over people, keep running around people, and us over here at the Fish Report, we hope to get out and watch you live one of these Friday nights and take in a Yellow Jacket football game.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Isaiah.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
And that was Sidney's senior star, Isaiah Bowser, and Ken. He's certainly a good guy. Like I said, a good student, a good on the football field. And for any local fans out there, any Ohio State fans thinking, all right, I'm going to catch him when he plays at Northwestern. Buckeyes not actually scheduled to play Northwestern next year. They are in 2019, Isaiah's sophomore season. That one will actually be a Northwestern home game over there in Evanston. So a little bit of wait for Buckeye fans if they want to see Isaiah Bowser. And one more note on that. Actually, I was talking last night to a local fan, and I said how Sidney had only one playoff appearance back in 1989, and he said, well, wait a second, Craig, that they've got a field named 30-0 Field. They had those 30 games in a row they won back from 68 to 70. How can they only have one playoff appearance? Of course, back then, there was no playoffs. It was actually all determined by the poll, similar to what we saw in college football years ago, where your state champion, your national champion, was determined by a poll and not a playoff system. They didn't actually have the playoff system in Ohio high school until about 1972. So, Sidney had a rich tradition in football, but only one playoff appearance, 1989.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like you said, they've got over a 95% chance, according to the polls this year, that that they will make the playoffs. But they got to win Friday night, Craig. They got to take it one game at a time. But like Isaiah said, they're getting a big lift Friday night as they get Andre Gordon back in the backfield. That'll really help them. They can run the option a little more. They can pass the ball a little more and keep teams from focusing on Bowser all the time. And I think Andre will be a big lift for the Yellow Jackets Friday night.
Yeah, they're going to be an exciting team to watch the rest of the season, that is for sure. And let's go back to the sound room. Speaking of football and speaking of atmospheres, I know TK was at a big game last Friday night between a couple number one state-ranked teams, weren't you, TK?
Yeah, we headed up to Marion to watch the Flyers and the Minster Wildcats square off last Friday night. Kind of expected it to be a sellout. It wasn't quite a sellout, but a good crowd nonetheless. Maybe a little more excitement on the Wildcat side of the field. I guess Marion just kind of expects to come in and win every game because they weren't real excited. And to be honest, kind of a sloppy, nervous first half with a lot of turnovers and a lot of penalties. Finally, late in the third quarter, Marion got their act together and started to take the game away. Really, it actually came down to a holding penalty. Minster would have scored a tying touchdown, got called back for holding. After that, Marion drove the length of the field and the game was over. So a tough defensive battle, excited crowd, about $200,000, or $200, not quite $200, $2,000 in the 50-50, so it wasn't quite a Marion Coldwater game, but it was a good crowd, a good game, though it took a little while to get the things going.
All right, and Heavy D, I know you were at you were up on the Ohio-Michigan border. There was a big shootout there in college between Toledo and Tulsa. Now, I know you were up there, but I didn't see any pictures of you at the game. I kept seeing pictures of you on social media at the tailgate party.
We did. A contingent of about 10 couples went up to check on the kids up there at school. Hung out with them a little bit before the game. Let me pull up a picture here. Pretty good contingent, not only from Russia, but the greater Shelby County area, Dark, Mercer, Auglaize County, good representation up there. That group of kids all seem to hang together and know how to have a good time up there. Ended up going to the game and saw Toledo win on a last-second field goal, 54-51. Came back from 28-7 down there at the Glass Bowl. So great weather, great atmosphere, and great friends.
Great weekend.
Yeah.
That's a lot of points. That's like a Sidney game right there. They won last week 55-48. That's about comparable.
All right, speaking of those Sidney Yellow Jackets, Ken, let's get to tonight's poll question and find out what the results are. But first, read our poll question to the viewers again.
To our viewers out there, how many regular season wins will the Sidney Yellow Jackets have in football this year? 7, 8, 9, or 10? Craig, you know, some people may say it should be 10 plus. It should be that fourth option because who knows how many they're going to win. But what's our listeners say out there, TK?
Well, our listeners seem to think it's going to be 9.
9.
The vast majority say 9, a couple at 10, a couple at 8, and 2 at 7.
I'd say 9's a pretty good
9
prediction
is
there.
Probably a pretty close number the way they're playing right now and what they have with the rest of their season.
Well, they got a great team. Like I said, they got a tough schedule ahead. Anytime you're playing in that G-Walk and you got to go against the likes of Troy and Pickle and Tip and West Carrollton, it's never an easy night. So we'll see what happens. But they got a lot of talent, and we'll see what they can do with it.
All right, great stuff tonight, guys. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Do want to say special thanks to our guest, Isaiah Bowser, for joining us live. Ken and I and the crew will all be back again next week on Wednesday. So until then, have a great rest of the week, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the fish pond, hanging at the fish pond, hanging at the fish pond, hanging at the fish pond. For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the fish pond. Don't need no bed, don't need no pole when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report, hanging at the fish report.